everyone, and welcome to channel IRS. We continue our record 90 SP3. This is week number 7, where I try to beat Fernando Alonso's lap time, which is 45.5 at Daytona Sandown Park circuit with their go-kart D-Max Vortex 125cc. Let's go. Today I'm visiting Daytona Sandown Park, and I'm starting this week with a practice session. So right now I'm gonna do 25-minute practice session. It's a very nice and dry weather, so we have opportunity to do 46 lowest, maybe 45 highest. Yes, we can do that today. And this week I am planning to film something very interesting. First of all, practice session. Let's see the result, and then let's move into that interesting place. 46.6, not too bad for Daytona Sandown Park on a dry. Yes, I know we need 45.4 to beat Fernando Alonso lap time, because that's why I'm doing my record 90 SP3. Okay, but today is Sunday and I moved to Brands Hatch circuit, where we have a quite interesting championships, and it's not only interesting, it's the most popular in Britain championships. So today I'm visiting Brands Hatch racing circuit, and here happening different championships like a Renault Clio Cup, Porsche Carrera Cup. We have Formula 4 British Championship here. Also we have a Ginetta Junior Championship, but I am interested in two important championships here. One of them is Ginetta GT4 Supercup, and the other one is Dunlop MSA British Touring Cars. So I'm not going to be able to talk to the touring cars drivers, because it's impossible for me to get into the pit lane, maybe in the soon future, but I definitely can go to the drivers who is doing a GT4 Supercup, Ginetta GT4 Supercup, and I can ask them questions about racing driving, and maybe we can get some racing tips.
mine.
No, no. What is your team name?
AK Motorsport.
AK Motorsport.
Yeah.
Just next to me, Carl. He's a racing driver at AK Motorsport.
Yes.
Am I right?
That's correct.
And now we're gonna find out a little bit information about GT4 Supercup.
Well, the Ginetta GT4 Supercup, it's a one-make series. The cars are a hand-built race car in Leeds by Ginetta, obviously. All the cars are very tightly regulated. We all use the same springs, suspension, fuel. The only alterations we can make to the car are suspension setup, geometry, and getting the weight right in the car.
So all the racing is actually depends on the racing driver skills.
Yes, and the team behind you, because the series is that competitive that a small change in the car can mean the difference between a tenth of a second. And the times that we're putting out on the circuit, a tenth of a second can be the difference between, say, 4th and 7th. It's a very competitive series.
How is important to rebuild the engine? Is that every race, every second race?
I'm maybe the wrong person to ask this. These cars here, they come with a 60-hour warranty with the engine. So we rebuild these every 60 hours.
Every 60 hours?
Yes.
Let's say if we take Brantage,
yep.
If you drive with a new engine and if you drive after 60 hours, what you reckon would be on the lap time?
Well, what I found in that race, my car hasn't got a new engine yet. I've only just bought it off Ginetta. It's going to get refreshed after the next round as part of the package. So I was coming out the final corner, I was getting my drive, getting alongside a car with refreshed engine, but he was still getting to the next corner in front of me, although I had faster exit speed. So there must be a little bit of a difference between the rebuilt engines. I'm not the best person to ask. I sit in the car, and let's say the team, AK Motorsport, they sort of rest it out for me.
Of course, it was wet, so it's a bit different. But let's say if we speak about dry, what is the driving style?
For me, I'm learning. So in my last race, I was actually backing it in, so I was getting it sideways before the apex and driving it sideways, which worked really well for me that time. But with GT4 here, the entry speed and the braking distance what we need, so it's phenomenal. I've never experienced anything like it. And the downforce, you get to a point where the mechanical grip finishes and the downforce kind of comes into play, and you've got to get brave to get through it and trust the car's going to get you around the corner. So in the dry, I was getting to the point I thought I was out braking myself, but I actually wasn't. The car still could go around the corner, so it's a massive learning curve for me at the moment.
So the cars are really grippy on the dry.
Oh, they're fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I've been lucky enough to race BMW M3 before this, but we were using treaded tyres, no aero, and to go from that into this, which was similar power, I went round Donington Park 8 seconds quicker than the M3. Yes, incredible.
Is that all because of the downforce? Or?
Yes, in the corner speed. So
corner speed.
Yes, because coming out the corner probably 20 miles an hour quicker than what I was in the M3, and then braking probably 20 metres later as well.
20 metres later.
Yes, yeah.
It's a lot.
In some corners, yes, yeah, absolutely incredible.
Who can enter the GT4 Supercup? Like what kind of experience you should have? I reckon that you can't get into this car straight away after go-karts. You have to have experience with the cars.
Ginetta have got a programme. They take children from karting. I think you can race them at 14, which is the G40.
Is that Ginetta Junior?
Yes, for Ginetta Juniors, and they bring the drivers on through the junior ranks, which are quite restricted in power. And then we go up into the next class, which they've got more power, and then the next step up is obviously into these, and then into the LMP3, LMP1 cars if people are quick enough for it. And make the transition from karting into this. If you can drive a kart quick, I would presume you could drive one of these quick. My experience, this is only my third season racing in a car. I started 2 years ago, near enough to the day, on this circuit. And then 2 years later, we're doing a professional race series.
What car you started to drive, sorry?
In a BMW M3.
BMW, so yeah. You've done 2 seasons in a BMW M3?
One full season, and I missed the first 2 rounds of my first season.
And what you did before M3?
I raced motorcycles, so I raced Supermoto.
So this is your actually the first 3 seasons with the car,
yes.
at all?
Yes, yeah.
Okay guys, here is I am at the team hard now and next to me Eddie,
right.
team manager, yes?
Yes, team.
Eddie, can you tell us a little bit to my YouTube viewers, can you tell a little bit about Ginetta GT4? What is this racing about?
Well, okay, so it's Ginetta GT4 Championship. It's on the Toka package, so it follows the touring car grids all around. All the cars are the same. Everyone races exactly the same. It's a very controlled championship, so it comes down to driver ability rather than car. There are 3.7 Ford V6 engine. 3.7 Ford V6. They've all got big Alcon brakes all the way around. All run on Michelin slicks as well, obviously, except in the wet, which again is another Michelin tyre. All controlled by the championship, so everything has to be bought from the championship. Generally, they're a fast car. They are a very, very fast car. Very competitive racing as well. Very, very competitive racing.
So when you're saying competitive racing, can you tell me like what kind of setups you can do for a winning, or all the setups are regulated by MSA as well?
No, the setups aren't regulated, so the components on the car are regulated, but how we set the car up is totally down to each individual team. For us, obviously, I'm not going to tell you how we set our cars up,
well,
because we have it different to everyone else, and that's why we won this weekend, I believe. But yeah, so suspension's all adjustable, ride heights are all adjustable, anti-roll bars are all adjustable, and there's 3 different spring rates that you're allowed to run.
3 different
spring rates, but the brakes all have to be the same, the clutches have to be the same, the gear ratios, diff ratios are all the same. Obviously engine power is the same as well, so you can't change that across the championship. It all comes down to setup, and obviously your steering angles and stuff like that is what else you're allowed to change.
So it's actually not a lot what you can play with. I mean, like, you still have a space to play with.
Yes.
But I would say that the general driving is up to the driver.
Yes, it all comes down to driver ability. So if you have a look out there, there's a pro class and an AM class. So the pro class is for people who are wanting to become professional drivers and actually want to make a living out of racing. The AM class is generally for more gentleman drivers or people who are just stepping into racing. You'll see there's a very big time difference between the pro class and the AM class, normally between 3 or 4 seconds. Even though the cars are exactly the same, it all comes down to driver ability. So you will see that the pro class is generally 3 to 4 seconds faster.
Can I just ask, Pro Class and M Class, they drive these cars?
Yeah, both of them exactly the same
identical.
cars. The cars are identical, but it just comes down to driver ability.
Driver experience.
Yes.
Correct. And I'm doing a project which is called R90 SP,
right.
Where I'm trying to beat on one of the go-kart circuits. I try to beat Fernando Alonso lap time.
Right, okay.
And I have a question about engines.
Right.
Can you tell me, please, how often you have to rebuild engines to be competitive?
So with go-karting, that comes down to a very different thing. Obviously, these engines have a life of 60 hours.
60 hours
on the Ginettas. From my personal experience, when we did go-karting, we were changing an engine every race. Every race. So on a weekend, you'd have 3 races. We were changing an engine every race. That was my personal experience. We were doing 3 engines a weekend, 3 chassis a weekend, just to try and be competitive and be at the top. But these engines last 60 hours, and we generally run them to 60 hours.
60 hours is quite a lot.
60 hours will get you near on 2 seasons of racing.
2 seasons?
Near on. If you have a bit of testing in there, then obviously you run over the 60-hour limit, but near on 60 hours of racing will get you 2 seasons.
Money-wise, it's very...
It's still an expensive championship, obviously, on the
it's
package,
expensive.
which is the top. These cars are around 100 grand to buy.
Just to buy?
Just to buy them. The
I'm not going to ask you how much it's to run.
You're looking, as a general consensus, you're looking at about £1,000 an hour to run a car. So that's how much the rebuild is and all that. Tyres are about 2 grand a set, and the front runners will put a brand new set on every race.
Every race?
Every single race, yes. And obviously for quali as well, so technically on a weekend you'll go through 4 sets of tyres.
4 sets for the weekend?
For a weekend, yeah.
So it's like a practice, race 1 and then...
Qualifying race 1, race 2, race 3. Especially in the wet, so the wets make a massive difference.
What kind of difference is that?
So on racing, if you go out on a set of wets, you generally start the race on a brand new set of wets, and then after that, sorry, my teammates are over there taking the mick. You go out on a brand new set of wets.
We can show them.
Yeah, they're taking the mick. Yeah, so you'd start on a brand new set of wets for qualifying, and then if you went out on the same set of wets for race 1, you wouldn't be with the pace of the front runners. You have to go on a brand new set of wets, otherwise you're away from the pace, unfortunately. And that's the amount of effort people put into this, they're willing to spend that sort of money to win a race.
Red lights on, 23 laps, slightly shortened from the advertised 24. Massive wheel spin. He gets sideways, Andrew Gordon-Colebrook, and he's going to be swamped at the start here by everybody else. Harry King's made a mega start and he's trying to get himself into the lead of the race. He won't quite do that. Carl Bordley's made a good start as well, but the lead is going to go the way of Carl Shield.
But let's come back to the engines. I'm just really interested. After 60 hours, would you feel it different if you drive around Brands Hatch on a dry? You would do a certain lap time, yes?
Yeah.
And after 60 hours, would be significant difference on the lap times?
No, not really. So we keep them at 60 hours because Ginetta, who built the cars, that's their warranty. So they will not cover anything after 60 hours. So we generally refresh them just short of 60 hours just to be on the safe side. You can probably run the engines longer. We personally don't. We don't want to take that risk. But between a 30-hour engine and a 40-hour engine, you'd very rarely see any difference in time. Because of the cars themselves, because they're such heavy cars. When you come back to, when you talked about the karting, you're talking about karts that have 5-6 horsepower as a max. If you know what I mean, so half a horsepower makes a huge difference. Mm-hmm. With these, you're having 350 horsepower. So if someone's got 349, you very rarely notice a difference comparing to that. So obviously, you're talking bigger scale, especially with the karting and these cars.
So actually, even after 60 hours, you can't blame the engine. You only can blame yourself if you're doing slow lap times.
Yes, because Ginetta will not warrant it, and that's part of the championship. You enter that championship understanding that that's the rules, and if you want to, it won't affect you as a driver or affect you as a team or hinder you in that way, what points or otherwise. But it's up to you. If you want to go out there and be reliable, you need to stick to the 60-hour limit.
I'm more than sure that the driver from the go-kart can't turn up and race in Ginetta. I think he's not going to have enough experience.
No, so we had this weekend Adam, whose car's sitting actually just there. He won a club championship in a Honda Civic 2 years ago. Then he first year in the championship, straight into a Honda Civic, won the championship. Second year, went racing, straight into a BMW M3 in a club series, won the championship straight again. So he's now stepped straight up into these, and he's not right at the front. He's struggling because the level is so different. So for a go-kart to step into one of these is a big no-go. You'll tend to find that Ginetta actually build a car called a G40 because these are a G55. So if you have a look out, on the same weekend they run G40s, which are a smaller car. They're a 2-litre Ford Z-Tech engine, I believe.
I've been there just last weekend.
Yeah.
And my previous video is about G40 actually.
Right, oh, okay.
That's why today I'm talking about GT4.
Yes, if you have a look, so Harry King's a great example. So last year, Harry's at 16 at the moment. Come second, I believe, last year in the G40 Challenge, and has stepped straight up into a G55 age of 17, and he's in the pro class running second, third. He got 2 podiums this weekend. 17 years old, jumped straight up. He's very good driver. We also run these cars in British GT, slightly different spec, but again same principle. Callum Hawkins-Rowe won come third with us in Brit Car last year and has jumped straight into British GT, which is more the endurance side of racing rather than the sprint, because these are only 20 minutes. British GT's 2-hour races.
Yeah.
But he's 17 as well, straight into these and racing, and he's doing rather well.
Wow.
You'll find it amazing at how young these people are who go racing the G40s, as I'm sure you know last week, as you said. they can start from the ages of 12.
So actually we can say that to enter GT4, the karting experience is not so necessary.
I wouldn't say karting experience is so necessary. Obviously karting's great as a step because you learn race lines, you learn craft. This, as I say, this is very close championships. You need to be able to work your way around the pack, not causing damage, still keeping track position, and hopefully get better in yourself. So for karting, racecraft is a very good way to step into it. I think if you didn't kart and you jumped straight into one of these or done another series before you got into this, you'll find it more difficult, or it will take longer for you to learn. Karting is a great way to start in motorsport. It always has been, and I think it always will be.
So here he is, guys. This is the end of week number 7, and the race is finished, event finished, and I have to finish my week number 7 as well. And these guys, they're gonna go home and prepare themselves for the next race. The same I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go home and prepare myself for week number 6. See ya.